What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into a Friday morning episode of the Daily Juice Podcast. My name is Matt Peralt. You guys can follow me across all of my socials at Sports Talk Matt, and this podcast being brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a jump and say that we had a winning day because I think Geno Smith's going to go under. I'm not positive, but we're into the fourth quarter. Got about 11 minutes to play. It's 6-3 Seattle, and Geno's got 20 pass attempts. So unless this goes to overtime, we should be okay. Now, that's a little bit of a gamble here. I'm taping at 7:30 Pacific time before the game is over, but I have a flight to catch. So I have to go ahead and tell you, we got the first half number right. They kicked the field goal there with 30 seconds left to cover the 2.5. That's why I wanted no part of 3.5 in the second half. We took it in the first half. That cashed. Pitt, I don't know what the hell Pitt did. I mean, 6 overtimes. Narduzzi should just stop. Like, the guy is, I don't know what that guy is as a head coach. He's clueless. He had so many chances to win that football game. Rutgers, at last look, Rutgers was winning. Did they win their game? Let me see real fast because I stopped watching it. Oh, they lost by 3. Bummer. But they covered the 7, though, so he would have cashed that parlay. If Pitt had won the money line, that would have cashed, and that would have been a nice day. Instead, it's a 2-in-1 day, up a unit versus being up, 2 plus units on the day, but we'll take it. Winning is winning. 2-in-1 is 2-in-1. We will take it for today as we head to a Friday with 3 bowl bets to give you here for college football. Remember, I am traveling, like I mentioned, so this is the last time you're going to get kind of a normal, quasi-normal schedule for the Juice. It's going to be all over the place starting tomorrow morning or tomorrow on Saturday for the Daily Juice dropping of the podcast, but you'll get one every single day, including New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as well. Being brought to you by DraftKings. You guys, new Pick 6 players, you guys will be able to go and use the promo code JUICE, play $5 to get $50 instantly in Pick 6 credits. Go and download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available. Problem gambling? Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. 18 plus in most eligible jurisdictions, but other age and eligibility restrictions may apply. Valid only in jurisdictions where DraftKings Pick 6 operates. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including but not limited to New York and Canada. Void where prohibited. For terms, go to pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right. Let's start with the Armed Forces Bowl. Let's start with Oklahoma up against Navy. Oklahoma has had a slew of opt-outs. Starting quarterback has transferred to Auburn. 3 of the top 4 wide receivers have now left. They've lost a star linebacker. They lost a star safety. This is going to be a tough ask for Auburn up against Navy playing in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. But this game's in Fort Worth, Texas. This will be heavy Oklahoma. They got a lot of fans coming in here. A lot of fans are going to come in and be a part of this. And I know Navy has had a tremendous year. But Navy, well, they just had their Super Bowl. They played Army, and they beat Army. They were dogs by 7 points, and they beat Army. Yes, this is a bowl game, and they would love to knock out a team from the SEC. That would be tremendous. But 2.5, we're going below 3? Sorry. My SEC radar, my defensive prowess, Oklahoma stuffs the run. It's what they do. They stop the run. And obviously Navy likes to throw a lot more than they have in the past. And Navy's not a typical Navy team. They've been scoring over 22 points per game. Navy has been, over 30 points a game, or 30.6 to be accurate. They average 5.5 yards per rush. They throw the ball 9.7 yards per pass. But Oklahoma gives up 2.9 yards, and that's just across the board. I know they've lost a couple of star players, but the second teamers for Oklahoma are really good. Really good. Better than Navy. Better than Navy's players. 2.9 yards per rush. Maybe that gets to 4. Maybe. I don't think Navy can be one-dimensional. I think Navy can just go back there and throw the football. And I know Navy triple option is very difficult to, but it's a month. You're giving Brett Venables a month, one of the best defensive coaches in recent memory, a month to prep for Navy. Nah, man, I can't get past this. Even with the opt-outs, this number opened up over a touchdown. It's completely crashed due to all the opt-outs. I think this is too big of an overreaction. I'll lay the 2.5 with Oklahoma. OU minus 2.5 to win the Armed Forces Bowl just based upon talent, okay? Just based upon want, talent, fight, Beating Alabama was gigantic for them to have that. I know a lot of people have said, they wanted to fire Brent Venables. He saved his job with the win over Alabama. He then turned around and lost badly by 20 on the road to LSU. But here's a bowl game on a neutral. Look, they aren't as bad as they led on, okay? But they took on teams like Temple this year. They won 51-3. I know different players, but 51-3. They beat Auburn on the road this year, 27-21. They took on, middle of the road teams. Alabama was kind of a fluky thing at home that they were able to get down, but they beat Tulane 34-19. They beat Houston 16-12. Temple's better than Navy. Houston's better than Navy. Tulane's got more talent than Navy does. And Navy's really fun to watch. I'm not knocking it, but Navy's had kind of a, up and down year in some ways. They lost to Notre Dame. They lost to Rice 24-10. They lost to Tulane 35-0. There's a common opponent here, Tulane, 35-0 and 34-19. Again, Oklahoma full complement, but just straight up talent. Give me OU. Oklahoma -2.5 for 1 point units up against Navy here in the Armed Forces Bowl. Let's talk about Vandy and Georgia Tech. Man, we get it one more time. We get Diego as a dog again in the Birmingham Bowl. Wow, really? You're giving me points against Georgia Tech. 6-6 Vanderbilt, 7-5 Georgia Tech. Vandy going for their first winning season since 2013. Also, the last time that Vandy won a bowl game was in 2013. A lot of these players that played for both Vanderbilt and for Georgia Tech won't be there. A lot of transfers coming in. Those transfers won't be eligible to next year, but this is a big game. This is a big game. Pavia is a lot of fun. He may or may not play the whole game. We saw him come and go a little bit, but in the backup quarterback, Nate Johnson has left Vanderbilt. But they've got a couple young players I think will step up and have an opportunity. Eric Singleton, the wideout for Georgia Tech, their leading receiver, will not play in this game. They've lost some players on the defensive side of the ball as well to the portal. One of the two backup quarterbacks for Georgia Tech is gone, a guy who appeared in 10 games and threw for over 400 yards. So that's interesting to see how they're going to handle that. Georgia Tech has some quarterback questions. These teams are very similar to each other. And so because of that, I think you got to look at Vandy and motivation. Georgia Tech won a bowl game last year. Vandy hasn't won one since 2013. And I get points. I get points with an 8-4 ATS team for Vanderbilt. And Georgia Tech's had some mega wins. They lost by 2 to Georgia Tech in overtime at the end of the year. They beat Miami late in the year by 5, but they lost to Notre Dame by 18. They lost to Va-Tech by 15. They lost to Louisville by 12. Lost to Syracuse by 3. This is a Vanderbilt team that has some massive scalps. They beat Auburn this year. They beat Kentucky this year. They beat Alabama this year. Diego is a dog. This is just, I don't know, man. They were a dog all year, okay? Vandy was favored in one game this year, one, and they're 8-4 against the number and 4-1 away from home against the number. They were a better team away from home than they were at home. They were 4-3. I get 3 points. Give me Vandy. Vandy +3. I think this is just an opportunity to jump in here on event. Maybe there's a push there, but we're going with Vanderbilt +3 here in this bowl game because I just think Diego's too fun, and I get a chance to bet on Diego one more time. I know he's probably back next year, but I want him one more time. Give me Diego to go ahead and possibly win the game outright against Georgia Tech in Birmingham. Both teams will have a very good number of fans who will make the drive. It's a simple drive from Nashville down to Birmingham, Auburn over to Birmingham, from Georgia, from Atlanta over to Birmingham. It's a little bit of a farther drive, but it's very easy. It's a drive for both schools. 2.5, 3 hours for both schools to drive on over. Be a lot of people at this bowl game. Should be a lot of fun to watch this thing, but I'll take Vanderbilt with the points. Vandy +3 for 1.1 units. And finally, it is a New Year's tradition for me, or a bowl season tradition. It's the Holiday Bowl, and it's the over. Syracuse and Washington State. Washington State this year, 6-6 to a total. 3-3 both home, 3-3 on the road. Last game for them went under. For Syracuse, 6-4-2 to the over this year. 2-2-1 away from home. But I get Kyle McCord in a bowl game setting where Kyle McCord talked about this already. they're going in there and they want to win. They want to win and they want to score. Against Miami, they scored 42 points. Against Connecticut, they scored 31 points. Against Cal, they scored 33 points. Against BC, they scored 31 points. Against Vatech, they scored 38 points. In those games, do you know what their defense gave up? Their defense gave up 31, 37, 25, 24, and 38. Okay? I watched a UNLV team put 41 in person on Syracuse. Should have won the game. Lost the game 44-41. This is a really fun football game, and I know betting under for totals at 60 have been very profitable this year. We've done it a lot. But this is Washington State, who's had the lowest total for Washington State this year was 54 against Washington. They won the game 24-19. Okay? But that game went under. Well, I guess they lost that game. They didn't win that game. Because Washington didn't lose to Washington State. But anyways, that game went under. Every other game, you're talking about Oregon State on the road, 57.5. New Mexico was 72.5, and that game went over. 68.5 against Utah State, 8.5 points over. They scored 49 in that game. Neither one of these teams stop anybody. 31, 37, 25, 24, 38 for Syracuse's defense. Given up over the last, Pittsburgh, they gave up 41. 41 to Pittsburgh, 31. So over the last 6 games, 41, 31, 37, 25, 24, 38 for Syracuse's defense. Washington State didn't score much against Wyoming. That was a weird one. But before that, they scored 38, 35, 49, 29, and 42 points. They can score. Now, they'll have opt-outs. They'll have issues. They'll have things going on. Washington State lost its head coach, but much of the coaching staff is still there. They lost some players on offense. Syracuse is going to be pretty much close to full strength. So I don't mind. It's 17 for Syracuse. Laying 17? No, not laying 17 points in the bowl game. But points and scoring? Yes. I think Washington State is going to score. I think Kyle McCord's going to put up points. If you want to do team total Syracuse, love that. Okay, you can jump in on that with team total for Syracuse if you want, but it's just high. It's just a big number. So I'd rather not have this. Syracuse is 34.5 from a team total perspective. If this thing goes, 33-30 and we lose this, that would stink. So I don't mind betting on Syracuse team total over against Washington State, but it's the Holiday Bowl. Offense. We're going over 59 for Washington State and Syracuse in the Holiday Bowl. All right, so 3 plays for us here on a Friday on the 27th of December. Oklahoma laying 2.5 points against Navy for 1.1 units. Vanderbilt +3 for their game against a team that they should win. I mean, Vandy should beat Georgia Tech, but we'll see in the Birmingham Bowl. And then over 59 for Syracuse and Washington State. But again, I'll be on Syracuse team total over 34.5 as well on that game if you want to jump in on those bowl games. My name is Matt Perrault. You guys can follow me across all socials at Sports Talk Matt every morning. It's the Daily Juice Podcast being presented by DraftKings.